Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Tax Thursday, presented by Smart Counsel. I'm your host, DDQ, here with Smart Counsel's tax resident attorney, Dion Kellier. Happy
Hello.
Tax Thursday, Dion.
Happy Tax Thursday.
Awesome. If you're new here, Smart Counsel is a boutique law firm that is woman-owned and minority-owned as well. Our attorneys are experienced in a variety of practice areas, ranging from strategic planning, corporate, and obviously to tax. You can visit more, or you can learn more about our website by our law firm by visiting our website at www.smart-counsel.com. In today's episode, we will be talking about whether or not the tax system treats men and women differently. So, Dion, what can you tell us? Can you tell us a little bit about how this topic came to light?
Absolutely. I thought this was random. This is something, I don't even know how I fell on it, but the short answer is yes, they do. They treat differently. So 3 recent reports from the National Women's Law Center detailed the ways the U.S. tax code perpetuates racial and gender bias by rewarding particular family, household, and business structures and disadvantaging low-income women, disabled women, immigrants, LGBTQ people, and women of color. The report points out that these policies are facially neutral, meaning that on its face, it's not discriminatory, but its impact is actually discriminatory. And many argue that the tax code's treatments of taxpayers is neutral because it does not explicitly address demographic characteristics like race and gender. But the tax code's impact is not race or gender neutral, and this reality has a far-reaching and important consequences for women's economic security, especially low-income women and women of color. So, although it's been amended several times, the tax code continues to reflect the biases embodied in the law when it was enacted in 1939. The primary family taxing filing unit is based on the predominant family structure for white, upper-class men in the beginning of the 20th century, a married heterosexual couple with children and a male breadwinner, says the first report. The worker whose income was taxed was assumed to have a wife or domestic worker at home whose unpaid or hardly paid labor ensured the care of their children or other family members. So, what is the implicit bias? What are some examples? So when you have the joint filing for married couples, in which where the spouse's incomes are combined when calculating the tax owed, and it provides a marriage bonus for single earner, unequal earner couples in which one spouse makes significantly more than the other, rewarding households with a primary wage earner and a partner staying at home to care for the children. So that is basically a stay-at-home mom, dad that goes out. All right. Business deductions. Business owners may deduct the cost of capital expenses such as machinery, but men are more likely to own capital-intensive businesses such as construction and manufacturing, while women are more likely to own service firms such as salons or consulting firms, which rely on human labor, and there are no tax breaks involved for human labor. And similarly, childcare expenses are never deductible. Next, the income from investments. I know, right?
It's so expensive too.
It is. Do you see those prices? I'm like, whoa, I got time.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know about how expensive that was until a few attorneys at my previous firm had kids, and they were kind of giving me insight how much it is per kid per month. I'm just mind blown by that.
It's like $1,200 a week.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
It's ridiculous. It's a mortgage, but then what are you gonna do? Because you have to work, and the kid can't stay home because then you're gonna send you to jail. So what are you gonna do? Right. This world that we're living in, we're gonna get to that. So all right. Next thing, income from investments. Provisions that reduce tax on income from wealth as opposed to income from labor offer disparate benefits by gender, race, and other characteristics because of disparities in income and wealth. Tax breaks on income generated from extreme wealth allowed the already wealthy to face lower tax rates on much of their income than people who earn their income from actually working. And it also allowed extreme wealth to be accumulated across generations without facing much or any taxation. That's like the generation skipping tax and just inheritance tax. Next, the mortgage interest deduction. It subsidizes home ownership, thereby rewarding wealthier individuals and disadvantaging women, people of color, and other marginalized groups. This deduction is primarily claimed by families earning over $100,000, but there's no federal tax policy to help working class families afford rent. Is that not the reality of life right now? But the next thing we'll get into my commentary. Workers' compensation due to an injury isn't taxed, while damages received from a discrimination complaint are taxed as income. Women, people of color, and disabled people are more likely to receive damages due to a discrimination complaint and are overrepresented in low-income groups. This distinction between physical injury and discrimination awards codifies the notion that a physical harm causes a tangible, measurable loss, while discrimination, whether based on gender, race, or disability status, does not. Because of the gender pay gap, women simply earn less and save less than men. Saving incentives benefit men more. So two provisions of the tax code actually do help lower income families, and they are the earned income tax credit and the additional child tax credit. Unfortunately, for single childless people, the income cap for the earned income tax credit is around $15,000 with only about a $500 benefit. So basically, if you're a single person, you can only earn up to $15,000 to qualify for the earned income tax credit, and that earning up to $15,000 will get you a $500 credit towards paying your taxes. But if you have children, you can earn more and you still get money. It's a help. Like if you have children and you're in and you're lowly paid, then anything helps. But the bigger issue is why are you paid so low? Not even, I don't even want to talk about your skill level. It's just, why are we living in a society where you can work a full 8-hour, 12-hour shift and basically your drive home, that gas is going to take out whatever you made that day. I mean, it's ridiculous. And it's not like, I'm not against businesses and especially small businesses because everybody's trying to make it as well. But wages are not increasing, and the amount of money that businesses for services is not increasing, but everything else around us is increasing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. With the gas, with the groceries. Like how are we expected to kind of like live off of all of this with all this going on,
Exactly. Like even for instance, if you want to, your immigration fees have gone up probably 500% since I've graduated law school. And I mean, so you have somebody that is trying to, get their green card or their citizenship, and their job, their ability to work is hampered by them not being a U.S. citizen, but the fee to become a U.S. citizen is so great that what are you going to do? Can't get paid under the table. So, I mean, there are a lot of things. When you peel back the layers of things, it's very stressful.
That's what I feel like it is. It's just like a layer. It's like, well, what about this? And then it's like, well, there's something behind that. And then it just like keeps going. And it's like, where's the genesis? Where's the beginning of where it all starts? And is there even a way to kind of fix it all? I feel like it's so deep.
I don't know if there's a way to fix it all. But I'll say this. I didn't think tax reform was going to happen. Right? So I was one of those people, it's never going to happen. And the fact that it did happen is like, they still don't even have all the rules written down for when it happened. And by the time they write the rules, maybe it'll change again. But, it's one of those things that the people that are in power making these decisions, do they want it to happen?
Yeah.
Because it's probably not beneficial to everybody for everybody to be on the same, on the same playing field. But we'll get into my thoughts in a little bit. So these credits are particularly important to women and women of color, especially who are overrepresented in the low-wage workforce, who experience pay and other forms of discrimination, disproportionate responsibility for caregiving, a greater likelihood of working part-time, and other factors that exacerbate economic insecurity throughout their lives. So the authors of the report, they point out that the biases are so deeply ingrained in the tax code that adding one refund or closing some loopholes won't do much to fix the totality of the unfairness and could have unintended consequences. And adding more refundable credits could help advance economic, gender, and racial equality. But then how do you do that, right? There's almost like no way. The U.S. tax law has chosen marriage as a defining characteristic of all individuals when deciding how income tax returns should be filed. So most Americans file their 1040s as either single or married for the most part. You could be a head of household, but head of household is an extension of single. And you could be married and you're married filing jointly or separately, and a widow is an extension of being married, right? So those are that's your tax code. But even when these taxpayers in the two groups have equal incomes, they're treated differently. So basically, a married filing jointly person can make double the amount of a single person and be taxed at the same rate. Which, okay, I guess that, I can see the logic in it, right? Like, if I make $100, I don't think I should be taxed more than a couple that makes $100, but I am. So it's one of those things. As I say, I get hit with the single tax, so like maybe my opinion is biased, right? Like, why am I having to? I don't get any credits. I don't get anything. I just have to pay taxes, and I don't necessarily mind paying taxes. I just don't like the penalty of filing single.
Because you're single, and that makes sense. And like something that just kind of kept coming up when I was looking into this is I know that it was talking about how it can be discriminatory versus like women, and like if you're like a only parent kind of way, or like a single person, or if you're married, it's different, and how it kind of categorizes it since men tend to make more than women. I guess my first question would be, I know this may sound so stupid, but can a man and man couple, like a gay couple, file as married? And if they do, is that a whole different ballgame because it is two men that are probably making more than women?
So that is a very good question. And I went and I looked back for this. All right. So I'm going to just read to you what it says, because guess what the answer is? It depends. So this is what it depends on. Right? So, let's see. So, okay. The federal government now allows married same-sex couples to file joint federal income tax returns. However, for unmarried couples, the federal government and the states have starkly different rules. So here's the guide. If you are married under state law, then your marriage is recognized under federal law for tax filing purposes. That's even true if you're in a state that doesn't recognize your marriage, but you got married in a state that recognizes same-sex marriages, right? So at that point, if you get married in a state that recognizes same-sex marriages, then you can file a joint federal tax return, married filing jointly. However, if you're in a state where same-sex couples can marry, and in those states they recognize civil unions or registered domestic partnerships, you can only file a state tax return that's joint. Your federal tax return is going to be single.
Interesting. But in the states that don't, you can do federal?
The states that recognize gay marriage, whatever those states are, they you can live in any state, right? So if you got married, like say I'm gonna say Florida's not one of those states. I don't know. I don't think so. So say you got married in California and then you guys moved to Florida, then you can file a federal tax return, married filing jointly. But say that you got married in Florida and then moved to California, then you're probably, or actually no, if you got married in Florida and stayed in Florida, then I'm going to presume that Florida, and Florida is my state, but I'm going to presume that they don't recognize it for, several reasons of things that they do. And if I'm wrong, we could correct it, but I don't think I'm wrong. So if they only recognize a civil union here, then you can only file as married. Your federal tax return is married filing, no, single, not even married, single.
Right. The state is where you can file as
and
married.
Then exactly, but in Florida we don't have personal income taxes, so so that's a wash. So let's see. Okay, in California, certain unmarried heterosexual couples who live together and register as domestic partners can file a joint return. But guess what? What do you have to be to qualify? Can you guess? It's pretty good.
I don't know. A man?
No, well, one of the partners has to be at least 62.
What?
And
What?
so, yeah, so yes. And so,
That's
yeah, these differing laws can create complicated tax filing situations. So if you're married and domiciled in a state that recognizes your marriage, you're married filing for federal and state. So married filing jointly for federal and state. If you're married and not domiciled in a state that recognizes in your marriage, you're married for federal, but you're not married for state. If you have a recognized domestic partnerships in that state, for federal, you're single, and for state, you're married. And if it's unrecognized domestic partnerships in that state, you're single for federal and for state.
wow.
Yeah,
So
and
many loopholes as always
so
with the
it
IRS.
it, it all the answer always depends, right? And so
Right.
federal laws come into play when filing your state returns, and most states base their joint return computations on the figures from your joint federal return. So that means that while married couples only have to file 2 returns, one for federal, one for state, generally unmarried domestic partners must complete a total of 4 tax returns. So first, each partner must complete an individual federal tax return and file, and then the couple has to create a joint one, right? Which is like a mock one, so that they can then start at the point of what their federal taxable income would have been if they were married and it was recognized in that state. But,
Wow.
this, just like other things that I say, is like, why do you care if
Yeah.
people are married? And like, why do you care? Is it hurting your life? Is your marriage so it's not, so I believe marriage is a beautiful thing, and I believe that marriage is a union between 2 people that love each other and they want to be together, right? So that's what I believe. I believe that the people that force the marriage between a man and a woman argument in order to justify their positions are not always people that are living in a respectable manner, that you don't have the position to be judging what anybody's doing, because your marriage, is your wife happy or is your husband happy? Are you out here cheating? Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
People are making decisions for other people when they definitely, like, you're living in a glass house, right? Like, you should definitely not be talking about what anybody else is doing. And so I just feel like when people get involved in other people's business that is not hurting them, then you're in this slippery slope, especially when you're not living, right.
Like a perfect life.
Right, exactly. Like, I understand the beauty of, a relationship, a committed relationship. And so it's just like, it bothers me so much when people make these arbitrary statements, even in the marriage argument, right? Like using the Bible. You can use the Bible or anything to support your position, because there's going to be one line that supports whatever it is, because they use the Bible to justify slavery. They use the Bible to justify keeping women, in the house and not able to vote. They use slavery to they use the Bible to justify like everything, right? So I'm just saying that it's a document that you can find anything to support your position. So I feel like it's a life guide more than something. It's a way that you should live your life. But if you're not living your life in the right way anyways, then don't call on the Bible to then talk about what somebody else is doing that you consider wrong, when you're doing 17 other things that are, if not just as bad, if not worse than that.
Right. No, yeah. I mean, definitely people are not perfect. We all have our whatever. So, but I guess what I'm trying to understand is, are you saying that no matter if you're in a same sex marriage or not, we should all file taxes the same, like on a federal and state level?
Well, I feel like if you are married, right? So first of all, like, if you I don't even think I don't think, if you are in a relationship and in that relationship you want to be married, I don't think that your relationship should be called a non-marriage. If it's doing the same thing that marriage is doing, I think that it should be called a marriage. And then I think that people that are in this type of marriage type of relationship whether you call it a civil union, domestic partnership, whatever, should have the same benefits of any person that is in that type of relationship, like married filing jointly, as opposed to federally you have to file single, but since your state says it's okay, or they don't say it's okay, then you could file, married filing jointly. Like if you are in a situation where you're married, whatever marriage consists of, then you should be able to claim married. Like me, no, I shouldn't. I do feel like, the partnership is something that you should get a tax advantage of, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't think that me and then somebody and a married couple that makes the same money as me, I think our taxes should be different. I do. Although it affects me negatively, I do think it should be different because it's a different, our bills are different, our situation's different. Like I don't have to worry about childcare, like you have to worry about childcare, or I don't have to worry about whatever it is that a married couple worries about. Like I can make all my money decisions on my own. Whereas, I married people have to make it together, and then they make a joint decision, and, whatever, comes of that. So I don't think that we all should file like the same level, but I feel like everybody's situation should be respected and recognized.
Yeah. So kind of like a case by case.
Like not even a case. I feel like it should just be blanket. I don't think it should be case by case. I feel like it should be blanket. If you are married, whatever married is, then you should be able to married file jointly, period. Not these different, if you're here, then you do this, but if you go around the corner, then you do that. That's how I feel.
I completely agree with that. I think I agree with that completely. Just because it just, like we always say, taxes are already so complicated. And then to add this, but this, and then this, just so many other layers to it just makes it more confusing for the taxpayer.
It makes it more confusing. And it also, like, it has a level of separation, right? Because you, like, okay, all these people are married filing jointly, but like, wait a minute, you're not one of these people. You need to move to this line because you can do this and that, right? Why do the separation when at the end of the day, you're just worried about how much money I made and what your cut is? Yeah.
How are these established in a way? Is this something that we get to vote on? Or is this something that they just make, they just decide to do, and then we just got to go with it, and we have to know the changes and all that fun stuff?
We just have to go with whatever changes there are. We don't have our only dog in the fight is on the local level, and it's not even like we don't have much to say. Nobody really has much to say. There's the TTB, and then there is there's the Ways and the Means Committee. There's like 4 committees total that create these laws, and I guess if you vote the person in from your state that even gets on this committee, right? Because first it's the senators, and then the House, and then it's the people that get into these committees, and then those are the people that maybe they're taking input from their constituents, but I don't really think so. It's really it's a business decision. At the end of the day, this is a business. The United States of America is a business, and the IRS is necessary for certain things, and the tax code was created in 1939. What was happening then? We're in a different world, so there are things that have changed with the times, but not that many things. Like the law that is prohibitive against marijuana, it's been around since 1982.
Yeah, right, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I feel like the U.S. is a business, and at the end of the day, we're all gonna get screwed over. That's my personal opinion. Like, it's never gonna be in our best interest. It's always gonna be kind of like a hassle on our back, and if there is some kind of leeway, there's always a catch to it.
Right. So we had to think about it. There is a catch, right? Because if it goes away, then the United States of America, the corporation, is also going to be bankrupt. Would we want to live in the bankrupt corporation? We don't.
Right.
So we need our corporation to be performing well. How are they going to perform well? They get money.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, I mean, I guess this year is the first year that I filed my taxes jointly with my husband.
Is it better?
And I mean, no.
I don't know. Like, is it better compared to single? That's all. Like, not even, or is it like,
Right. I mean, I guess like from what I can say about it is the process was a little bit more difficult. Just because like my dad used to file my taxes for me. He would do that, and then I'd get like a nice refund check and all this stuff. But with like my work and stuff, it's now we both owe because we were both contractors, and I honestly didn't see what the big like shiny object was, if that makes sense. I
Yeah.
didn't see like difference. I was just like, okay, well, there goes our taxes. So like with that said, was there something that I could have seen that would tell me that I am going to be treated differently because I am the woman in the relationship? I mean, we both filed at the same time, we both signed at the same time. Like, is there anything that I could have seen like in the language or
No.
something they could have told me? It's just all like
It's all implicit. No, you're not gonna see
right.
anything, right? Like the fact that you have to be married to get a benefit in and of itself is,
Mm-hmm.
you know, is in and of itself is a bias, right? Because it
Right.
basically, as a single person, you kind of like you fall by the wayside, basically, right? And married, like yeah, you have married meaning you have a husband, not married meaning you have a wife, if that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm. It
Because it's
does, yeah.
more like it's okay, now you have a husband, perfect, you can, you guys file jointly together, not like, oh great, you have a wife, now you guys file jointly together. No, it's more like, oh
Right.
yeah, now his income can make up for all your shortfalls, and here you go.
What about like the women that do make more than
Oh, they get hit
their
over the head. I mean, I don't think
yeah.
I'm one of those women yet, right? But I want to make a lot of money, and I want, when I get married, I don't know if it's going to be more beneficial to file jointly or separately. That's going to be that would be an assessment that I make. If you have a penalty though, if you are married and you file separately, you
Right.
can make separately. You can't make more than a single person, right? Because you're gonna file your tax bracket is for you to get the same number, like percentage, like if you fall in the 10%, 12%, whatever range, you are
Mm-hmm.
making, as a married filing separately person, you have to make less than a single person that falls into that same category. So that's the
Interesting.
marriage penalty. That's the downside. But there are sometimes
Right.
it's beneficial to file separately. Like for sure, if your spouse already has tax issues, for sure file separately
Mm-hmm.
until that is figured out. But if they don't, like number wise, it might be more beneficial for one spouse to take the hit while the other spouse then gets to get some benefits. But if you are married filing separately, you cannot get the child tax credit and you cannot get the earned income tax credit. Like you can't get those things. So if you think that you're going to separate your income to get that, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Wow. Again, all the loopholes for
Yes.
no matter what. Try to be, strategic with how you go about filing, and it's just like you're gonna get hit every time with whichever route you go, right?
Exactly. I feel like, so like my number one takeaway in in the tax world is
Mm-hmm.
you have to be a business owner. That is, whether it's a small business, a large business, whatever. When you are just a worker, like
Mm-hmm.
W2 worker, you don't, the only benefit that you have, I guess, is if you have children, because you get that child tax credit, which at a certain number it phases out, and possibly the earned income tax credit. But the earned income tax credit is for, you're already making, you're already below the poverty line or close to the poverty line. So that's not really, it helps you, but, you know, I think being a business owner is the number one. I guess my like takeaway from this is women, men, everybody in between, on the left and the right, whatever, being a business owner gives you the most advantages in the tax system, whether you're a man or a woman. And then when you're a woman, or your industry that you're in, you know what I mean? Because we're not going to necessarily do construction. We may, but know the industry you're in and the benefits that go towards that industry. Because the tax code doesn't say that we're only going to, allow you to expense construction equipment. So, salon owners don't know that they can possibly, which I know they can, expense the dryers and the blow dryers and the this and the that. But like, women don't necessarily have that information, and they don't necessarily seek it out, right? And nobody really seeks out tax information. And it's just because, like, I do tax, and then, like, you and I talk about it, that you and I have these tax conversations. And then my friends, I always say, you're going to get a deduction for that. Like, we were talking about gas or whatever. I was like, as long as you're expensing it, it's fine, But, like, people don't really, it's not like coffee talk, right? So people don't really talk about this stuff.
Yeah, unless they're, like, in deep.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, they're in deep with a certain situation when it comes to their tax. And at that point, it's tax resolution.
Exactly.
So we need to definitely make it more common to have these kind of conversations. And again, like, taught in school. I think that's the biggest frustration that I hear about, is like, we're just not taught how to not even, fill out what is it? W-4.
The W. Oh, please. I filled it out. Oh my gosh. Listen, I did not know how to properly fill one out until after I got my LLM, because I figured out what it meant. So I'm like, yeah, I made zero. Sure, I'm head of household. What do you want to take out? That's great.
Dude, that's all of us now. That's all of us now. It's just like, I don't even know. I'm just going to put random numbers here, and then we'll see what happens when tax season comes around.
And you don't understand the bigger ramifications of it. But we learn, right? So this is what this platform is for. This is for us to talk about things that nobody ever talked to us about. I'm going to give the information, and you do what you want with it. But, like, I feel like once you have the information, at least start to ask the questions. And when you start to ask the questions, then you can get an answer. Because the one thing, and he was my former boss, and, he passed away. So, God bless the dead. Josephus Egligen told me, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And that is so you don't even know what questions to ask, because you don't even know that these questions should be asked, because you don't even know that this is sitting out there. So I'm trying to bring up the things that I feel like most people don't know, wouldn't care to think about. And, we'll just talk about it. Like, is the tax system biased? It is. Can you do anything about it? You can't. So just, know the information, and know how to make it work for you and not against you.
Yeah, and no one's born an expert in things, right? So it's all about learning. It's all about asking those questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question, as they always say.
There's not.
And, and like, literally question everything. Ask your tax preparer. Get on the phone with Dion. Send us an email if you have questions, and we'll help you. And if we don't know, we'll figure it out together, even on this platform.
Exactly. Like, so, and some of the topics that I talk about, so what I try to do is I try to talk about topics that I don't deal with every day, so that I'm learning something as well, so that I then can pick up something that somebody who's trying to learn it would also think about, versus something that I know that, there are certain facts that are given. So, hopefully it helps.
I mean, these are so beneficial to me, and I'm sure to any one of our listeners. So thank you so much again for your expertise. And the takeaway is, it is bias. Can we do anything about it?
No. Just know. Just know that it is. Know that it is, but it's not something you're not going to read on a line that says that, women this, or, a woman of color that. No, it's things that are just ingrained in the code that it's nothing we can do anything about.
Right. Thank you so much again. And thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Tax Thursday. Make sure you like this video and you subscribe to our channel and that you follow us on all of our social media platforms. Send us any topics you want us to cover, any questions that you have. You can send those via email at attorney@smart-counsel.com or DM us on Instagram. But until then, we will see you next Thursday for another episode of Tax Thursday.
Have a wonderful day.
So thank you, Dion.